Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Turning Base podcast. I'm your host, Bryan Redeker, and I'm joined with my brother, Bryan Redeker, and we have a very special guest with us today, who is private aviation advisor and co-founder of Palm Beach Jets, Alex Kowtun. Alex, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Brandon and Bryan. It's a pleasure to be on with you here.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of fun today, so I'm kind of looking forward to it. So, Alex, I got to start out and ask, how did you get your start in aviation?
Well, aviation was just a childhood passion from when I was a kid and I saw airplanes overhead. And I said, you know what? I'd love to be a pilot someday. So I did get my private pilot's license when I was young and still fly for fun. But the complexity of aviation is really what got me hooked into the private aviation business.
Yeah, I'm currently working on my private pilot's license right now. I'm only a few hours in. And yeah, Bryan and I don't know if you went back and listened to any of our previous podcasts, but we've been around aviation most of our lives. And my grandpa would fly us a lot in a Piper Arrow.
Okay, well, great. You have to stick with it and commit to that private pilot's license. It is
Yes,
a commitment, and
It is.
consistency is what gets the job done. I'll tell you that.
yeah, and Bryan has a few hours too.
Yeah. I got more into, I was kind of given an ultimatum when I was like 15 when I was in flight school to either, you can either continue with flight school or you can get a project car. And, at 15, I figured I could get more use out of a car than an airplane. So I went down that route and pretty much stayed on the automotive side. But the interest in aviation, which started as a child, I think my first flight, I was only a few months old. So it has remained with me my entire life. And aviation is a huge passion. I spent some time working for a hobby company, specializing really in a lot of RC aviation as well, and it's one of my hobbies. So, just last night, I was at the local flying field, flying airplanes well into the evening as the sun sets. So, aviation is most certainly a big part of our lives and our hobbies and passions. So.
So I've heard from a lot of skilled aviators that RC flying actually helps you in the cockpit. It really helps you
Yeah.
understand aerodynamics and
hmm
the limitations and what an aircraft can actually do.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you're familiar with the air show circuit at all, but RJ Gritter, who's got a super decathlon on the show circuit, he started in aerobatics on an RC plane and then moved into full scale and is on the air show circuits now. And a lot of the basics of what he learned, on an RC aircraft. The hard part is when that you're not in the aircraft, you have no seat of the pants feel, you have no gauges, you lack all those little things to help you out. And for some people who are pilots full scale and they convert over to RC, there can be a challenge in the beginning there to that they don't have that feel of being in the aircraft and looking at the gauges to tell them what is happening. It is a very different sensation. I think it's easier to become an RC pilot than full scale to RC. It's a little bit more difficult in the other direction.
I could see that for sure, because once you're used to being in the cockpit, the
hmm
sounds, the feels, I'm sure much different. And when you're turning orientation, when the plane's coming at you versus going away from you, opposite controls.
Absolutely. Yeah. We do I haven't been successful on it yet, but we do have a couple guys in our club that have FPV cameras mounted on their aircraft, like in the canopy, that you can look out and see it as if you're flying in a real airplane, and you have like a heads up display type image that gives you some information. And I have looked through it and got myself instantly motion sick. Standing on the ground, looking through the glasses, and I'm like, I think I'm either going to stick to actual flying in the airplane or just RC flying and not try to marry the two with a camera system, because you really it changes things quite a bit, and if you're not used to that sensation, you can get yourself actually motion sick from standing on the ground flying an airplane through a camera.
See that?
Yeah, I think that would be very, very difficult and
Yeah,
disorienting
some
to
guys
do.
actually sit on the ground when they do it, and that helps.
Interesting. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see getting real dizzy standing up as like things are moving around you, but yet you're not
Yes.
moving. That would be
Yes.
hard.
It is weird.
I think I'd want to be sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. That's how I would prefer to do it. And one guy would just sit there on the ground, just sit there, and he could fly and all do everything just fine. But he knew that if he stood up, he would get himself motion sick pretty quick. It's a weird it's a weird sensation. I wonder, like guys who fly drones in the Air Force drones, like the full scale Reapers and stuff. I'd be curious to find out how they, if they sit in a chair and have like a full system set up like, with goggles, or do they just use screens, or how do they do it? Because it'd actually be pretty fascinating because it seems like they would have a similar type motion issue that an RC pilot would have.
I believe it's screens for the drones.
Okay.
I've
That
seen some
actually would
YouTube
make it far
videos.
easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
keep in mind that they're flying for 7 or 8 hours straight. So that'll be
Yeah.
pretty strenuous on the eyes.
Very much so. Yeah. I think looking at an Excel spreadsheet is strenuous on the eyes after 8 hours. I can only imagine what it must be trying to fly one of those things for that long.
Yeah. I'm sure that's very, very different. Um, so let's kind of jump into some of these topics that we kind of went back and forth emailing on. So let's start out. What does when we talk about different clients and dealing with private aviation, something that you kind of specialize in, um, what does like a sophisticated client, how do they evaluate private aviation beyond just price, what aircraft is available? How does that kind of work when you're dealing with private aviation?
Well, in private aviation, the more sophisticated clients, such as family offices, ultra high net worth people, and people that understand it, are looking more at mission suitability. So they're not just looking for a quote for the least expensive light or mid-sized jet. It's a lot more mission planning, and I think that's where I really see the difference. So it starts with that mission fit, then even getting into the operator, the quality of the operator, their safety ratings, their
Oh, yeah.
pilots. How much time do they have in type? Do they have their own maintenance? Do they outsource their maintenance? Who's it to? What are your backup aircraft in an AOG situation? So it's more of a full picture than just shopping for the lowest quote.
Yeah, in fact, why don't we take just to take a further step back and just kind of give us a rundown on what is Palm Beach Jets? Where are you guys located at? What do you guys do? What type of aircraft do you operate? That helps set the stage a little bit for the audience.
Sure thing. So Palm Beach Jets is out of Palm Beach, Florida, just like it sounds. And we are a private aviation advisory firm, which is very different than a charter broker or a jet broker. Difference being, we are client facing on the same side of the table as the client instead of transactional. We saw a real void in private aviation with it being so transactional. You'd have somebody that's looking to charter a flight. They could hop on Google, they're quoting, and they're going for the lowest quote. Whereas the more sophisticated client cares about what we spoke of, the full mission planning, figuring out their needs before quoting, before deciding what kind of aircraft they need. So Palm Beach Jets takes this advisory role. And I use an analogy comparing a stockbroker to a family office. A stockbroker is trying to sell a transaction on a particular stock, whereas a family office is on the same side of the table, understanding your full mission, understanding what you're looking to accomplish, seeing what your priorities are, and not so much just shopping on price, but looking at safety, pilot experience, operator quality, and really understanding all that before you even get to a quote.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. That helps kind of set the stage
Yeah.
there, like I
Yeah, it
said, for the
does.
audience, get a better understanding of what makes, Palm Beach Jets a little bit different than a lot of other companies. And I think that explanation really works well to kind of how you're different. That's that differentiation in the marketplace.
Sure. And we have a big focus on education as well. So you're not going to see us buying ads on Google with somebody holding a glass of champagne in a jet. That's not who we are. We are an advisory firm that is educating and teaching people the entire process from A to Z in private aviation.
Yeah, I think that's really important is looking at the whole system because you're right. You can go online and look at many charter operators. They do have where do you want to go, right? And how many people are flying, and they'll spit you out a quote, a range, and you're like, oh, that's what it costs, and that's it. And it's like book now, but
Exactly.
there's a
But
lot more to that whole system.
so access is easy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's really easy, but strategy is the hard part.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that does kind of that's an interesting because like yeah, you're looking at that whole system to make sure that like, it fits their mission because I'm guessing a lot of people their mission is going to be very different. Is do I just need to get from point A to point B right now, or do I need to move my take my family somewhere? Well, what am I trying to accomplish? Am I going to be on the ground for an hour or for a week?
Sure. Now, are you looking to fly weekly, monthly, once a year for a big trip? How many
Yeah.
people? Where are you going?
Yeah. So when it comes to that, when you look at how does like operator quality and communication factor into looking at that whole system?
It's one of the most important parts because the operator is the one that's actually executing.
Mhm.
So, operator relationships and working with top operators is absolutely essential and
Hmm.
something that we just won't deviate from because you have to make sure that you have top tier maintenance,
Mhm.
reliable pilots, proper weather planning,
Hmm.
other fleet options in case we do have an AOG. So
Mhm.
operator is so, so important. And I tell everybody, we take it very seriously. We really value Wyvern and Argus safety ratings. It's almost always essential unless we don't have that availability and it's a one-off flight of some sort, which then we will work with Wyvern to evaluate it, look at the pilots, look at the maintenance, and do our due diligence ahead of time.
'Kay. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I'm assuming also like you probably have specific like airports and FBOs that you already have relationships with, depending on where they're trying to get to, that also try to play into it because you know who's going to be a little bit more reliable, what airstrips are easier to get in and out of.
We have a good idea where the operators are based, and that's generally a strong point for them.
Hmm.
However, a lot of the operators we work with are floating fleets, so they're chasing demand all over the country. It's really our job to find the best position aircraft to have the best pricing within our parameters. But we're not going to work with a lower tier operator that may have older planes that aren't maintained as
Hmm.
well, where
Mhm.
the pilots don't have Wyvern wingman qualifying time for the trip. So we won't negotiate there. And if pricing is a big factor, that client's probably not for us if they don't value
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
safety in the entire process and decision as a whole.
Yeah, understanding what your customer is really looking for is key. I remember a number of years ago, I was on a company trip with our corporate jet, and it broke down. We had an engine issue at where we were at, and so we were at the FBO at the charter aircraft office there, trying to get a flight back home again. And the president of the company at the time, who was with us, was German and spoke with a very thick German accent, and we were in somewhere on the east coast of the United States, and he's up talking to the office about we have to get back to Holland, and I knew that's Holland, Michigan, because that's where we flew out of, right? They
Sure.
thought it was Holland, the Netherlands, and we're working around the clock to try to find us a jet capable of flying us across the Atlantic to Holland, Michigan, to
Oh
Holland, the
my
Netherlands, not
gosh.
Holland, Michigan. Once we clarified that we, the customer, are just trying to get to Holland, Michigan, they're like, well, that's easy. We got plenty of jets that can get you to Holland, Michigan. We'll get you guys going right now.
What a story. But one of the most frustrating things is when you have an AOG situation with a breakdown.
Yeah. Yep.
Nobody's happy, but
I
we
mean,
have
it
to
could have been. I mean, as an aviation guy, hanging out at an FBO for a couple hours, reading Plane Trader, watching airplanes come and go. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but as the evening started to drag on, we're starting to wonder, how long are we going to be like? We're like in Pittsburgh or something. I'm like, how long are we going to be sitting here, considering that we'd like to go home eventually? But yeah, if you're a high value client, let's say if it happened on the way down to the trip for a business trip, we have business relationships that are at stake there. If you have an aircraft down position, you're in trouble, right? You have business opportunities that are going to be lost and you have issues. Now, thankfully, this was on the return trip, so all we had to do is just get back home again. But depending on what is on your schedule and the timing of that, having an aircraft down is a major, major problem.
It really is. And I tell people, keep in mind, these aircraft can be at 90 degrees on the ground, take off within 20 minutes, be at minus 80 degrees, and it's a machine.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
does happen, unfortunately, but that's why we have to take every precaution possible to make sure the operators that we choose to work with
hmm
top tier maintenance, and we can actually prove that with their safety ratings.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. Aircraft is an incredibly
It
complex piece
is.
of equipment, both fixed and rotary wing, right? And not everyone understands it. They almost take it for granted with how often commercial airlines fly and everything like that. But there is a team of people that are working behind the scenes to keep those aircraft in the air, to keep the pilots trained, to work in the simulators, to do everything needed to make sure that that flight takes off on time, arrives safely, and everything goes smoothly. And I don't think the general public has any idea of the amount of complexity that goes on to make something as routine as a flight just work.
That's absolutely correct. And private aviation is a whole ecosystem that
hmm
relies on many things to go right. So people think the plane just shows up, takes off, but that's not the
Mhm.
case. So a more sophisticated client understands that entire ecosystem of things that have to happen, the planning it takes, and the
hmm
strategy ahead of time to make sure we're successful with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's an unbelievable amount of planning and background work to make all of that to make that work. And a couple weeks ago, we covered an article about Duncan Aviation. They were upping all of their staff and warehousing parts close by where the World Cup events were taking place because
Smart.
they were starting to see an increase in traffic and everything for the World Cup, and so they were like, we need to support all these airplanes because things are going to break. It
hmm
happens, right? And so they were starting to ramp up before the World Cup to be ready for that.
That makes sense. And some of the bigger operators that we work with do have parts vehicles in major markets with
Okay.
That's good. Yeah. Yep.
with mechanics on standby that have brakes, tires, and things like that, and they're ready for these AOG situations. And that's
Yeah.
another
That's
big
good.
advantage of working with these larger operators that have been around a while and have built their own maintenance teams and have that scale is they do have parts nearby usually.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it from like a military operation in which there's a deployment of aircraft overseas or something, there's a huge amount of infrastructure that's got to go along with it. And that same type of infrastructure, spare parts, replacement parts, all the fuel, lubricants, everything that it's needed to service those is needed for general aviation as well. And so you need to have that infrastructure in place to be able to service an aircraft when it needs it. It's not as if you can just, if something breaks, you can be like, well, I'll just tow it to the next airport, right? So you need to have that available to you.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, that's those are some interesting points there. So you kind of touched on this a little bit ago. So can you go maybe a little bit more into the difference between the transactional charter experience and more the relationship, that advisory relationship?
Sure. So with transactional, that's the typical get a quote, get in the plane, do the flight, move on. That's transactional.
hmm
Where whereas advisory is before the even quoting, let's discuss the mission. Let's discuss how often you're going to fly. Let's discuss how many people you fly with. Let's
hmm
discuss your personal requirements in the cabin for the experience. And let's piece all that together before making any decisions. So instead of quote, pay, fly, move on, it's getting to
Hmm.
understand the client from their side of the table before we talk about pricing at all. It's understanding their needs when it comes to a charter flight. But maybe their need is not charter. Maybe it is a jet card based on the amount they fly.
Mm. Yeah.
Maybe it's fractional. Maybe it is aircraft acquisition.
Hmm.
Or we've had cases where it starts with somebody that would like to purchase a jet. And we learn what their mission is, how often they're going to fly, their budget, and we say it'll be much more affordable to have a jet card or
Mm.
maybe even charter because a jet is a tool. It's not a luxury
Hmm.
item. And
Yes.
listen, yes, it's convenient, but this is a serious tool that you're
Hmm.
purchasing, and it's a very complex transaction. You have to understand the fixed costs, the variable costs,
Hmm. Yeah.
insurance, upcoming inspections, how much it's going to depreciate. Then lastly, look at your personal tax strategy to see if that is an offset fit for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like in a case where the company that we had a jet, it was a partnership between a couple different organizations in the area that we basically bought time into the jet. We owned, it's like a timeshare almost of the jet. And that worked for our application. That worked very well for a very long period of time because buying the jet outright didn't make a lot of sense because the amount of downtime in areas that it wasn't being used. But by splitting it with two or three other companies in the area, chances that all three of us needed the jet at the exact same time were extremely rare. And it was a tool. It was not a luxury item. It was a tool to get high value people to the right location at the right time to meet with a customer, to get to a plant, whatever it may be. And that was our mission profile. It was not a luxury item. It was a work tool to get to where the work was needed. And it was the fastest, most efficient way to get a team in location at the right time compared to commercial, where you're going to be flying all over the country and connections. You need to get a hotel and a rental car and all these things. For us, the jet was the just best tool for the mission.
And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions in aviation is tool versus luxury.
Yeah.
And how
Yep.
important having the proper strategy is with that tool and deciding if that tool makes sense or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Put 10 executives on a regular commercial flight and look at the expense of that, the time lost in travel
Huge.
and in layovers and everything else that goes along with it. Yeah, there are better options that may work for your particular mission, and understanding that mission is really important because you're right. Not every solution is the same for every client.
Sure. And when it comes to charter and going back to that transactional versus advisory nature, a broker solves a trip, whereas an advisor solves the aviation strategy going forward. And I think that
That's a great way to put it.
that's one of the
Yeah.
biggest difference right there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. But yeah, I think most people see private jet and they strictly think of luxury, right? They're just like, oh, it's a X amount of $1 million for that jet. It's all about the money and the look and everything. But you realize that it's a tool, and for a lot of executives and stuff, it's the closest they can get to like time travel of getting that time, compressing that time down to be able to get to point A to point B quickly. They're looking at it as a tool, as you said, not necessarily, yeah, it's just like, oh, it's a beautiful airplane. Yes, they are beautiful and everything, but they're looking at it from a different perspective.
And it could be considered a time machine too. And
Yeah.
time is the most valuable thing we have in
Hmm.
life.
Yeah, there was many times we used ours as a conference room with wings. We did a lot of our meeting strategy, meeting prep, refining the proposals, everything we needed to do. We did it as a team on the aircraft. It was not sit back and watch a movie and drink champagne or anything. It was a work meeting, and then on the way home, it was a decompress, going through everything that went on in the meeting, getting our notes ready. Like I said, it was a conference room with wings. Is how we used it in the air. Um, and it really was a great asset to use.
Makes sense. So we also work with high net worth clients and family offices that want to buy jets as a secured asset investment play. And we advise on purchasing the proper jet, utilizing the tax strategy, selecting operators, and overseeing that entire process. So we do that either on a direct lease to a large operator or on a revenue share. And what we tell the investor is this is a farm tractor to you. Don't get emotional about it. It's a tool. You can have some usage, but once again, not luxury item. This is a cash flowing asset
Hmm.
and pretty much a farm tractor that you're going to lease to somebody or you're going to do a revenue share on and participate in
Hmm.
the.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird to think of it that way, but that's exactly what
Yeah, you're
that's
right.
exactly
Like,
it. And you have to look at it in those terms because it becomes a little bit easier to understand what you are really getting involved in here is a piece of equipment.
It is a very complex piece of equipment that you
Very.
really truly need to understand before you get into it.
yeah, even just when you look at the complexity of a small, like the Warrior that I'm flying, like actually how much goes into just making that small airplane get off the ground. And then when you look at these big jets, it's just the complexity is just unbelievable on those planes.
The systems are just unbelievable in how they've been modernized and the new Gulfstreams with the heads up displays,
Yeah.
the safety features. It's really a modern marvel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, seeing some of the videos online of those is just it's unbelievable. And then just even in general aviation, how the complexity has gotten. I just a couple months ago I flew a Cirrus SR-20. So coming out of flying a Piper Warrior that has not had
The
really
big
many
change.
avionics upgrades, and
Yeah.
then getting into that Cirrus and it's all touchscreens, and you're just like, whoa, where is everything?
It's a whole different world, and it
It
takes a
is.
little bit to process from your mind going
Hmm.
to steam gauges
Hmm.
to that glass panel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I flew an RV7 not that long ago, and he had the glass cockpit set up, and I was like, can you switch that to the classic six pack for me?" He's like, "Sure, no problem, one button." He's used to flying commercial airliners, and so for him, that screen was very similar to the screen he uses in the aircraft. I looked over and I'm like, I can't make heads or tails out of that thing, and it makes me very nervous. So he's like, one button switch. Here's your old school looking gauges. I'm like, okay, now I feel a little bit more comfortable. I can at least read and understand what I'm looking at a little bit better and not try to decipher all that in the air. I can most certainly see if you are used to the glass cockpit, that is the superior way to go. But when you just see it for the first time, it's a bit overwhelming.
Well, it was a hard transition for me, but
Okay.
I went straight from steam gauges to G1000, and
Wow.
the key for me was I got a G1000 simulator on my iPad and got
Nice.
very comfortable with it.
That's the key. Yeah.
And before I even got into the plane with a G1000, I was comfortable. So
Yeah.
that's something I
That's
really
it. That's where the
recommend.
importance of simulators to do that, get you that comfort level beforehand. Do we have time for a couple fun questions, Brandon? I know we're getting close
Yeah, no,
here.
I think we got.
Do we have time,
I think
Alex?
yeah.
I do.
Okay. All right. Let's get
I'll
into a
make
couple fun
the
things
answers
before we
quick.
wrap this up.
What's one of the most unique airplanes you've seen on the rack?
So behind me, the F-16,
Hmm.
personal favorite.
Okay.
I'm lucky enough to be in the back seat in that picture with the Thunderbird.
Awesome.
So that's my number one, I'd say. I just have a forever love to the F-16, and let me tell you, the performance is unique.
I bet. That is awesome.
And then from a business jet perspective, this is pretty generic, but my favorite, although not unique, is the Citation 10
Okay.
because of where it's priced, the
Hmm.
reliability. You can go from LA to Palm Beach in under 4 hours a lot of times. So the Citation 10 just makes me happy. And I think it's such a great high performance machine and does a lot of things really well.
It's a beautiful looking
Yes, it
business
is.
jet as well. I mean, really, it is a clean looking aircraft.
It is. It's like the Ferrari business
Yeah.
aviation jets.
Yep. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah, and it's hard to beat that time. I'm just thinking back to a couple months ago when we drove from Michigan to Florida for vacation, and it was 2 solid days in a minivan to get there. It's a
Yes,
long time.
I did it a couple months ago, and it's just such a great experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is really cool. What excites you the most about the future of private aviation over the next 5 to 10 years?
It's really the education of the customer. So it's not such an elusive industry anymore. There's a lot of knowledge out there, and I'm dealing with more sophisticated family offices and high net worth people that have an understanding and see the value in the full perspective advisory, safety, knowledge, and that's becoming something that people are starting to prioritize, and I think that that's gonna improve more with time as AI teaches people, as there's more
Hmm.
information flowing. So I think
Yeah.
that the average passenger is gonna be armed with a lot more information, and they won't be so transactional. They're not just gonna go for an advertisement on Google from a generic company. They're gonna be more concerned about the things that matter in private aviation, so that's what excites me.
Yeah. No, that I think that hits on a really important point. Is I think people are trying to actually get more educated about a lot of things, and AI is helping that. Other than just making fun photos for people.
That's true.
um, yeah.
So we'll always need that human touch in
Yes.
aviation due to
Hmm.
complexities, how fast things change. So I'm not worried about AI really taking over or making the decisions, but I think it's going to be very valuable to educate us on the questions to ask and what's really important while flying private.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tool just like the aircraft is, and that's uh, more I use it, the more I realize it's just another tool in the toolbox.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. What's one thing you wish the aviation industry understood better about you and what your company does?
I wish that the industry overall was more regulated, believe it or not, when it comes to brokers that are selling charter and selling planes. All it takes right now to be a jet broker or a charter broker is a business card. I think that's absolutely crazy. I think
I
it's
did
Scary.
not know
nuts.
that.
So there's over 10,000 brokers out there just operating transactionally. And with Palm Beach Jets, we wanted to go above and beyond and not just talk about it, we wanted to do it. So we actually earned our Wyvern Wingman broker safety rating. There's only 7 brokers in the entire country that have achieved it. Very difficult. They audit you. They go over every policy, every procedure you have. They make sure you're following the highest standards. It limits the operators that we're able to use. The operators have to meet Wyvern's safety standards. If not, there needs to be an exemption filed, and the pilots then need to qualify. We need to look at maintenance, look at things deeper. And I really wish that there was more regulation and that there were these types of requirements for everybody because you do have these brokers that are so transactional and not educated. They're
Hmm.
just trying to sell wherever the highest margin is and that they're not on the same side as the client. Then you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
you have jet brokers that are just showing their inventory and not disclosing the full story. So I just don't think there's enough support for the actual client in the private aviation industry. Hence, we started Palm Beach Jets to be client facing.
Great. And how do people get a hold of you and Palm Beach Jets? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Our website is palmbeachjets.net, and I'm active on my personal LinkedIn, Alex Kowtun. We publish a weekly insights article. It's very in depth about private aviation. So you can look for that every Monday. And that's part of our entire educational initiative and teaching people the reality of private aviation and what's important.
Great.
So if somebody
Awesome.
wants to understand charter, aircraft
Hmm.
acquisition, or anything more in the private aviation industry, we'd be happy to have a conversation.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for that, and yeah, thanks for taking the time with us today. This was a lot of fun. Greatly appreciated it. This was a nice break on a Friday from my normal
Yeah,
day to day
right.
operations. So I really enjoyed you coming on here and taking the time with us today.
Well, I had a lot of fun too. Thanks so much for having me, and I look forward to maybe doing it again in the future.
Yeah,
Sounds like a
absolutely.
plan.
We'll definitely have to have you back on, Alex. Thanks again. Thank you everyone for watching and listening to the Turning Base. We will catch you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. Thanks for flying with us on Turning Base. If you found value in today's episode, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your team. Want more tips and tools for marketing your aviation business? Visit us at readymarketing.net. Until next time, keep your wings level, your message clear, and your altitude high.